I
Yes.
can.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we'll get started. Really, we wanted to kind of come together. My brother and I, we've been in the space industry and working in engineering backgrounds for myself close to 10 years now, and for Sebastian,
I've been in the industry for 5 years.
5 years. So um, I think Sebastian, SpaceX is a right now maybe the leading space company in the private sector. And that was Sebastian's first job out of college, and we wanted to share our story of how is it that we were able to maybe get to where we're at today, and along the way and along the road, how we founded our soccer organization, Space United, which is um, an organization that is aiming to provide these types of community outreach to the people that somewhat they don't have the same resources or opportunities to learn about space. So we'll tell you a little bit about the story on how we were able to kind of channel those two powerful sections of our lives and make it what it is today. So we'll talk to you guys while we're here, a quick introduction, share a little bit of our story behind soccer and how it played a big role in our lives and leading up to space. And at the end, we want to also share a little surprise, Caesar. So hopefully you can find it very appealing at the end. So we're here because obviously we learn about what you guys are doing with STEM at Whittier, and we think it is very incredible. Like you guys, when we were young, we were started um, with the inspiration of engineering, science, and it really provided us with some of those tools that, as we grew up, um, got us to where we're at today. And really, the message too is that you guys are the future of this nation, and just similarly how we kind of felt when we were kids, we have the power to maybe make things better for ourselves, our families, and the world along the way, right? So we want to tell you that little story of how we started and how we got where we are.
Yes, and Caesar, I just want to make a comment to Caesar. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, I know you mentioned to us that you were interested in the engineering path. And since this is a very one-on-one situation, then feel free to jump in and ask us questions along the way. But what Camilo said is really true. You are the future of this country, and the what you're seeing now on the news, your leadership skills are needed now more than ever. If you want to make a difference, it starts now with what you're doing today in school and with the people that surround you, like your mentors and teachers that are joining us here today.
Maybe Sebastian, take this one.
Okay. Well, Caesar, let me tell you a story about us, and it started all over the world. We grew up in South America, and then as immigrants, we've come to the United States and lived in states like Texas, Louisiana. We even lived in Alaska for 7 years, and then we ultimately worked at SpaceX in California. And so we've been exposed to a lot of different cultures within the United States and outside of the United States as well. So we definitely have a very unique story, and that has shaped what we are today. We are able to work on the latest technologies in terms of rocket technologies, and on the right you see augmented reality technology. That's going to become a key component to the assembly line in the future. And we as immigrants, as people of color, we are implementing these changes in industry, and we are creating a path for what the future is going to look like. So it's important for you to see yourself as somebody that is able to shape that future as well.
Yeah, and along the way, we've also had a lot of fun doing this. So that's also part of our story, that you know, in making these efforts, sacrifices of schooling, and even also through the discipline that you find within sports itself. We've had a lot of fun along the way, met a lot of great people. We've been involved with some of the coolest projects with, in this case, Hyperloop, which is one of the transportation methods that we're trying to develop underground. And then on the right, you see Iron Man, which actually they recorded and filmed the movie at the SpaceX headquarters. So we get to meet very interesting people when we get to be involved sort of in this industry, right?
Have you seen the Iron Man movie, Caesar? Yeah, so it's pretty cool to be part of those. And you can take your mic off mute. We'll make this more one-on-one. I think it'll work out.
Okay.
I think that's cool, guys. It's like super cool.
It really is.
There's Mario in the waiting room. I'm not. Should I let him in?
Nobody else is coming in today.
Okay.
Yeah, so Caesar, as we were mentioning before, my name is Sebastian Tobacia. I studied industrial engineering at Texas A&M, and this is my older brother, Camilo.
Yes, I studied aerospace engineering at Texas A&M as well. We also have two brothers that also studied engineering at Texas A&M. So we're all Aggies, they call them. And Sebastian and I had the chance to get involved in the space industry, work for SpaceX, and currently I'm working for Blue Origin up in Seattle, and we're also making rockets and spacecraft for the future. And yeah, this is a little bit of our story.
Yeah, so Caesar, we've managed to tell you everything we've been, all the cool stuff we've done, a lot of the projects and cool technologies that we're working on, and we want to tell you how it started, because the start is from humble beginnings. This is our father. These are our pictures of our father. He was a young kid, and he grew up in a very poor town in Colombia. He grew up in a very difficult household where you know there was a lot of from his father. There was abuse, there was alcohol issues, so he grew up in a very difficult situation, and his grandfather told him that the only way to break that pattern of poverty and lack of opportunities is through education. And so that young kid realized that the only way to have a better future for himself and his family is by educating himself. And he got the best grades. He went to college, and he became an engineer as well.
Yeah, so I think like Sebastian's saying, everything has to start in the beginning. It has to start with somebody, and I think that moment was like a pivotal moment in my father's life, in realizing that the only way for him to succeed and get a better life for his family was through education. So from that day on, and from that point forward, he decided he was not just gonna get by, right? He was gonna try to learn everything with purpose, and then instill that same idea through his life, and eventually to us, which the kids, right? Education really became the foundation for how we structured our mornings, our family, and really like our everyday being. We show a little bit of an example here. My dad working as an engineer back in Colombia, and all four of us kind of gathered around seeing him work. And he was this was sort of like our day-to-day. You know, we seen our father work, and then also instilling us education. Many mornings, my father woke us up like at 5 in the morning and gave us lessons on math and science. And then he would, between 5 and 7 in the morning, we would do those math lessons, and then he would go take off to work, and then we would go to school. And so, you know, back when I was a young kid, I kind of dreaded. I was like, oh, I want to sleep. So like looking back, it was one of those moments where it was that effort that as a kid, I was like, maybe not as fun or you know, just sometimes you just want to sleep. But my dad was really empowering in the sense of making sure we knew what we needed to do in order to succeed in school. So this even continued later in life. As we went on to college, we would always phone our dad, and when we had problems with math or calculus, and he was always like a phone away to help us out in homework. But I think all this just gave us kind of the tools to help us get focused and stand out. At the beginning, also at the same time in Colombia, for myself, I was a boy of a few words. I didn't particularly find speaking or like this platform where you're outspoken. That was my sort of sense of personality. So I really kind of started also shifting to soccer because it became my form of expression. And from a very early age, it was just what I did: soccer and school, and it just gave me kind of like the foundation and discipline to find my own self. Through soccer, I was able to find leadership also, and then kind of find my own voice within my teammates. And it helped me understand that sacrifice and practice result in good results, right?
So Cesar, you mentioned you like basketball, right?
Yes.
How do you balance doing your work, your schoolwork, and playing basketball?
So like most coaches, like if you don't have good grades, like you're off the team. So that was definitely one like big motivation that I had. Um, but that, and also because like science wasn't my strong suit, because like it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't interested in it, but it was that like I didn't have the same kind of motivation that I did for like other subjects.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like one thing that I was trying to get better at was my science. So
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe one important thing to note is like when we were this age in playing soccer, we had no idea that we would end up working in the space industry and like knowing what we're gonna do 5 or 10 years later. And I think what's important here is to understanding that you don't necessarily need to know what you're gonna do 5 years from now, but as long as you have a plan of what you're gonna do tomorrow, and then take things step by step, you're gonna start making achievements on a daily basis, and then one thing leads to the other. And then in our case, soccer was kind of like that funnel that just allowed us those tools to shape our decisions as they came up, and eventually kind of lead us up to the path of better decisions within our own careers as well.
Cesar, I think you mentioned something really key there. Science was not your strong suit, but you persevered through it to get to something that you wanted to do, right? And oftentimes, a lot of what you need is that discipline to push through the subjects and things that you're not comfortable with. But once you persevere enough, you find that you like it, that you like certain aspects of science. You realize that those principles can be adapted and applied to the things that you like to do.
it's true.
Yeah, so I think back when I was this age, I thought soccer was gonna be my calling, and then eventually we had to immigrate. So this is the next part of the story, that I was fully involved in soccer and athletics, but then because of the situation in our country with internal wars, some violence, political unrest, we found ourselves leaving our country and coming to the United States almost 20 years ago. And this was maybe a very tough decision and hard decision for our family to leave our family behind and come to the United States, where it was obviously a different language, a different culture, and many times we landed in Texas actually, and it's very interesting. I was talking to Sebastian about this earlier because my school just came into the news like 2 days ago. I went to school in Tyler, Texas, and then recently there was a news article in CNN about trying to change the school in some of the high schools in Tyler. And I went to both of those schools. I went to Robert E. Lee High School and John Tyler High School. And recently they've been on the news because obviously these two individuals are not people who are well represented. They're not representing our struggle, and really don't send that positive message. So I attended both of those schools, and in looking at that article today, it sort of made me remember some of those feelings, and then maybe when you get turned down when I was at that age, and always feeling that we had to work double harder in order to persevere or just kind of succeed, right? So this was one of the most challenging maybe aspects of our life path when we moved to the United States.
Yeah, and I'll add a point to that, Caesar, and you're a young man. You're gonna get started in your life pretty soon, and take it from two individuals of color. Being a person in color, you're often in situations that are not inclusive to your own personal diversity, and it seems that that's to some people, your mere presence in a room or in a field of study is provocation enough to cause them to say something mean or say something or equate you to a stereotype that is not true. And so what I wanted to tell you, because you're a young man and you will face those issues, is to look at the bigger picture and focus on why you want to use your skills and use your attitude and energy to create a better future for yourself and the people that are behind you, your family, the people that you will ultimately inspire, and the people that you want to create a better society for.
And can I just jump in?
Yeah.
I think that it is, the reason why I'm like really big on STEM and just into STEM. STEM wasn't anything that I really learned about until like years of teaching. And I like science as a kid. When I was in middle school, that was when I like fell in love with science. My science teacher was like the coolest, and like Bill Nye was the second coolest dude in science to me too. And I still watch Bill Nye. So like, I've taught math. I was an instructional coach in math, and I started to just read about how minorities aren't going in. Well, how there's so many jobs in the STEM fields that are going to be open, and how minorities aren't going into these fields. And like as a minority that's in the field of education, and I see education and like being a teacher, I see that people like we put a lot of effort into reading and math, but we don't as much as science. Sometimes science is an afterthought in elementary, except for like middle school. Like it is a class, and then it might not really be taught in middle school. So I think like now is the greatest time to learn about it and be involved in it. And like I could care less if there's one person in here, a million, just like you all said. I think that it is great that we're able to get speakers of color that can speak of their experience in the field and some of the experiences that they've gone through. And I think that that's important. Like, and I think Caesar, like, make sure you think about that and ask some questions, because there's not a lot of us in the fields, in minorities, Black and brown, in STEM fields. So like there are opportunities for you, a plethora of them. You just have to ask the right questions and talk to the right people and be interested in the right things. But there are a plethora. So like I'm glad that you all spoke on that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Camilo, before you move on from this picture, I just want to let Caesar know that Camilo was your age when he left his country. And our faces right there are very sad, because we're leaving our family, we're leaving our friends, we're leaving a country that was in turmoil at the time. And we, like Camilo said, we arrived to a country that had its own turmoil. in terms of attending a school with a Confederate general. It just gives us that anywhere you go, there's going to be issues and problems. But you do have the power within you to change the status quo and to have a vision of what you want society to be, and be empowered to change that.
Yeah, I think it was at this juncture that for ourselves, soccer was less of an option, because soccer had less resources in the United States, that we kind of started really focusing ourselves in education and getting ourselves situated in a way where we could end up applying and going to engineering schools. And this was a process, starting with my older brother, who kind of carved his way into high school, into the social aspect of our new culture, and was accepted to Texas A&M as an engineer in industrial engineering. And then one after the other, also keeping like our own family network and family nucleus like strong and together. We one after the other, we were able to like surpass and succeed each other, and find each other's success motivating to get us kind of moving to that next step. So Sebastian and I ended up attending Texas A&M and realizing that dream, right, of graduating in a STEM field, and eventually led us to SpaceX. And that's the picture that you see there in the center, me and Sebastian, right outside the first rocket that landed autonomously, right? SpaceX, typically rockets launch and then they're expendable. So these rockets disintegrate in the atmosphere when they're re-entering. But the idea for SpaceX was to revolutionize the space industry by making a rocket that would then be able to come back and you can reuse it. And so you can imagine on an economics side or perspective how that would change the industry. Because imagine you flying from LA to New York one time and then the plane gets tossed at the end of your trip. It will be very expensive to travel. So it just the technology would not work. And so we were able to join SpaceX, and this was a very proud moment for us when we landed the rocket, and a couple months later they displayed the rocket as a big achievement outside of the headquarters in California.
And Cesar, let me make a point about this one, because as you are hearing Camilo's story, he attended a high school where the name of the high school was a Confederate general. Camilo and I attended a university where there's buildings, street names, and statues dedicated to people from the past that actively worked to oppress minorities. But we still attended these schools because our vision is to redefine what these institutions mean to us. Now Camilo and I are very fond of our university because we worked to make those environments more inclusive. We created a Colombian student organization within Texas A&M, and we worked to expand the membership for hundreds of students. And we worked within those institutions to change what they are, because they don't define us, and we have the power to define it.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, and to this date, even organizations like schools and high schools, it just takes those moments to change the course of history, and these institutions change, right? And they change in a way that is positive, as long as people are putting the effort to get there and then share their message. Eventually, when we joined SpaceX, we were lacking a little bit of that soccer that had kind of brought us together in the beginning, and that was the moment that we realized that we can join these two forces of space and soccer, because we were always passionate about what soccer gave to us in our life, and the competitiveness and the ability to focus both on mind and body. And so that was an opportunity for us to really work on Space United. And we founded Space United 6 years ago when we joined SpaceX. and it started as a group of coworkers that just played soccer. But as the years went on, it started growing more in terms of what our mission is, and to what it is today, which is sharing that ability that we have, or the position and opportunity that we've had through our lives, so that other kids and other people can get inspired about a life in STEM, or pursuing their passions um, in activities that really kind of give us that power to move forward.
So,
So yeah.
sorry. So Caesar, have you ever played soccer?
So I've played soccer before with like a couple of friends.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends, Joseph, he actually like loves soccer.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about actually like doing soccer, but like
It's not your thing.
I wouldn't say it's not my thing. I just mean like I don't
Well,
know if I have like that much like focus, because you know, like as you were saying, you have to focus on mind and body,
right.
and then like
I think one important thing about this presentation is that soccer was a tool for us that helped us persevere through some of the subjects that were difficult to us, like math and science. But soccer gave us the principles, the core values that helped us persevere through that. So maybe for you it isn't soccer, but you can find the same type of values through basketball. If you want to become a good basketball player, then you got to put in the work. You got to show up to practice. You got to improve yourself. You got to have determination, dedication, and you got to be able to motivate yourself and have a vision of what your goal is. And what we're saying is, take the values that you're going to learn from the things that inspire you, your hobbies, and apply that to a bigger vision, something bigger than yourself, something bigger than your bubble, and work that to make a better situation for other people like you.
Yeah, ultimately it's a tool just to keep us on the right track and right mindset, basically. Move to the next one. Yeah, so here we want to show a little bit also on some of the opportunities and things that we get to experience now that we're in this position, working in the space industry. Here I want to showcase a video. I hope you can see it play, but it's the International Space Station. This is the Dragon spacecraft, and these are the two astronauts that recently took off in Dragon's Falcon, on SpaceX Falcon, in the Dragon capsule. And you can see them there training on the capsule, on the monitor. And then you can see on the lower right corner where I was in that capsule working as an engineer. I work for the structures side of the capsule. And it was so cool to see this project finally realized as we were launching astronaut, and it just kind of hits you at that moment, the bigger things or projects that you can get involved with. So we showcase this little piece because it's a meaningful one when you take this this project and things that you worked for so long and finally realize it as it's going to space. So
yeah, so Caesar, I was pretty happy that you were familiar with the SpaceX launch that launched the astronauts, and it's very cool because you know, for us, for Camilo and I, we're not sending astronauts. We're not sending like an abstract concept of astronauts. Camilo and I have actually met those two individuals, and they have told us their story. And so for us is not an astronaut, is Doug. You know, it's Bob and Doug.
Yeah.
And for us, they got a family and they got their own struggle. And it's up to Camilo and I to be proficient enough in order to create a capsule that has their life in it, you know. And for us, they're trusting us, and we trust them to do their job as well in order for the mission to be successful.
And at the same time, we've been able to maintain our love and passion for soccer through Space United. So you can see us here maintaining our competitive edge, still playing and still finding time to do both really, and find that balance within your career and also your passion for sports and whatever that may be for you. But here we were showcasing some tournaments that we've been also uh, capable or able to get involved in, obviously as a team for SpaceX at the time, and now we're Space United, and continue to kind of enjoy those two aspects of our life. Here we wanted to showcase also some of the cool things that we get involved. On the left, you see some of the patches. Every mission patch and launch, you get a patch as a memorabilia of the piece of work that went into this mission and what you were able to add on to that mission. So all of these patches just have a lot of significance in terms of the effort that went into each of these launches. And then on the right, one of our pictures was sent to space actually, and it made it to the International Space Station. And I'm sitting right there in the middle, just kind of smiling, and I had no idea that this picture was gonna make it to space. And astronauts then sent us this picture, and so it was also a very cool thing to see my picture floating in zero gravity in space.
Yeah, Caesar. So let me tell you a short story about myself. In high school, like yourself, I struggled with certain subjects. The subject that I struggled with was calculus, and I had such a difficult time with calculus. Uh, but I wish I had somebody to tell me, hey, if you persevere with calculus, you may have your picture in space. You know, like that's something that we couldn't see that far up ahead, because there's no way that we could have seen at 14 that our decisions that we made at 14 could get us to an opportunity that took us, even our name is in space. I'm not sure if you know, but they launched a car into space as a test. And
The Tesla car, yeah.
yeah, and Camilo's name and I is written in the car. So
Oh wow, that's sweet.
yeah. So it's little things that, like, if you would have told me that my name was going to be in space at 14, then I would have persevered and gone through, been more dedicated to my science and calculus classes. Eventually that happened, but I think I just struggled with it a little bit too much in high school, because I didn't have this vision of me having my name in space. But that is a real possibility for you.
So like, I have a question, guys.
Yeah.
So like, what advice could you give to Caesar now? Like, cause Caesar, you said you're in what, the 10th grade?
I'm going to the ninth.
Going to the 9th grade. So like, what advice could you give to Caesar now, besides like, hey, pay attention in class, make sure you know your math, focus on your math and your science classes? Like, what are some things that Caesar could start to think about now if he's interested in going and working on SpaceX, or doing the exact same things that you were doing? Like, what are some things that he could do?
I'll take that one first, Camilo, and then you can give him your input. But Caesar, for us, I think we were very lucky to have my dad as a mentor, because he didn't sugarcoat reality. He told us, as immigrants, you are different, and you're gonna have to work different, and your mistakes are amplified because of that difference. And he let us know from a very early age that our actions have consequences, and sometimes more severe consequences than other people. And with that, without sugarcoating reality, we realized that difference can work against us or for us. We realized that unique story that Camilo and I have is also our strength. And these companies need diverse minds like ours in order to accomplish the goals that they want. If they want to have somebody, have an astronaut reach Mars, then they're gonna need diverse minds like yourself, because you do have a unique story that's special to you, and that is your power. Although some people in society may want to take that as a weakness, that is your greatest strength, and you need to reach into that and look at the bigger picture. My dad always was very good at helping us identify the bigger picture, why you're doing that, and why you should stay in the path of being uh, a dedicated individual, because it's really not about you. It's about the people that are behind you, and the people and the future that you wanted to create for yourself.
I think that's like, just to jump in. I think that's like I heard everything you said. But the main thing that jumped out to me was, it's not about you, and it's hard to, as an adult, take yourself out of the way, and realize, what you're doing for other people. But like, Caesar, we're here for you to stand on our shoulders and take some of the things that, I might be able to expose you to, or teach you, even though I'm not even that hardy, or other people. And hopefully you just keep passing the torch along. I'm sure your mom and dad have been talking to you about doing all of this, making sure that you're a good human being, and keeping the tradition in the family and your name, just in general. You're the third Caesar. So like, you have a nice little tradition that's
You gotta
in
keep
front
up.
of
Yeah.
you, and that'll soon be following you, man. So you gotta make sure it's a good one. That's all.
I
Exactly.
think one important thing to add, and maybe on a more practical level, is you were mentioning how to get there and how to succeed. I think on a practical level, I think you need to be able and open to be involved. So finding involvement, not just on your interest. Like in my case, when I was in high school, at one point I joined several of the groups for debate and theater, for example. And these two things were things that were not part of my core expertise or what I did best, but it kind of took me out of my own comfort zone to be in theater, for example, in acting, and trying to find a voice and speak up. And these little exercises work to eventually give you the ability to speak when you're in an interview, for example. Like when I joined SpaceX, I had a 6-hour interview with 5 people that was grueling. I had to present, but all these little exercises add on to help you find your voice, find a cadence in your speech. When I even in debate, find a way for you to find arguments when you're talking about a subject and then debating another person. And so getting involved in those activities, even as a volunteer, because we were able to volunteer as I was volunteering for my high school to do a TV broadcast where we would teach, or we would go over like homework, and so being in front of camera, like I never felt comfortable doing those things, but getting yourself outside of that bubble and putting yourself out there as a fun exercise, it kind of just puts you out there to learn these little things. And like I mentioned before, you don't have to know what you're gonna do 5 years from now, but just what you're gonna do tomorrow, and then those little wins get you one step further every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So this a quick question on that. Do you know of any like STEM clubs, like for specifically associated with like space and stuff like that, that we can sort of provide well with resources? I mean, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I can maybe look into that. I know, for example, in my particular case, my school in my high school in Texas had the different clubs. There was the math clubs, the theater clubs. There's all sorts of clubs that I always make sure that I was part of some of those that got me out of my bubble or comfort zone. I think, especially now with social media, there must be a lot of other resources that can also help you get maybe volunteering and involved in the community in ways that are not directly STEM, but then it would serve as tools for you to kind of get more comfortable when you are in a STEM environment. But yeah, we can definitely talk further on those.
And we'll
Yes.
try to locate some resources and send it to you, Corral.
Okay.
Yes, Caesar, and to add like a practical bottom line to my advice is really also look for mentors. If you don't have a mentor, get yourself one, find yourself one. It's difficult to have mentors, but I think the right mentor can be life-changing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, we have one last thing to present, one last surprise. So we wanted to share this opportunity with you. I think we wanted to share the fact that we're gonna send you a postcard that if you can draw or write some of your thoughts regarding space and how we can make space and Earth better, you will send us that postcard back, and I'm gonna make sure that it goes into the Blue Origin New Shepard rocket, and we're gonna be sending those to orbit. It's gonna go to space and it's gonna come back and land. And then every single postcard is gonna get stamped with flown to space. And then this is gonna be sent back to you. So you're gonna get your own postcard and message back from space once it flies on Blue Origin rocket.
That's sweet.
Yeah,
So I'll
Caesar,
send it to your teachers, and then you can finish that activity and you can send us back and we'll fly it.
Caesar, you can write your name and tell your family that your name has been in space also.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then for Karel and Shashin, I can also share this template, and this is an activity that you can do with your students. And then the idea is for students to be able to draw or write a message of what they think we can build in space that will make Earth better. And then you guys will put a stamp, and then you can send it back to me, and then we'll be launching it on Blue Origin's rocket, and then we'll send it back to you guys.
That sounds great, man. That sounds so cool. I could tell somebody went to space.
You can fill one out too, Carol.
I definitely am.
All right, that brings us to the end. I know we've kind of had questions in the middle, so if there's anything else we can help you answer, we're happy to do it.
So actually I do have like one like burning question. You guys kind of answered it, but like what actually put you on like, because again you said you could have went to soccer, but like what actually like changed your mind to go to science or like space?
Well, so I think it also has to do a lot with your surroundings and maybe environment. When I was in Colombia, soccer is a very popular sport, and it's like you breathe soccer every day, everywhere you turn is soccer. And so that's why I was excelling at soccer when I was in that environment, and I had the skills to pursue it at a competitive level. But then I guess it also, those moments where you have to adapt, where I was put in a different environment here in the United States where maybe soccer didn't have the resources or wasn't as advanced, that I couldn't pursue it in the same way, that it helped me adapt. I never lost contact with soccer. I played soccer through high school, through college, intramurals, in amateur league. So I always kept soccer in my background and close to me. But it was that ability to adapt, and maybe knowing that, you know, at this environment, soccer perhaps is not the best option in terms of pursuing it on a long term, because it just didn't have the resources that I also then started maybe bringing these things that I had learned when I was a child, you know, through my dad as well, that education in STEM was maybe like a better route in terms of education or careers. Why space? I think to me, I think we always knew that we wanted engineering because it was a career that allowed us to maybe be creative and use our minds and be hands-on in creating a better world. And then for me, space, it was just kind of like the ultimate adventure in terms of exploration, and it's just exciting to be exploring something for the humanity that we you know, sometimes we don't have a big understanding and so it just gave me that yeah, like that imagination, or like that we could reach far out there, and that's how my transition to kind of space started after we moved to the USA.
And Caesar, I'll tell you my story. I told you that in high school, when I was in high school like yourself, I struggled with calculus a lot. I can actually tell you today that in one of my calculus tests in high school, I not only failed, but got the lowest score that the professor had ever seen. And yeah, and he was like, wow, like I usually don't let anybody retake it, but I'm gonna let you retake it. And I went home. I was so unhappy with math and science. But my dad again, he reminded me of the bigger mission and reminded me that if I stick with it, I'll eventually get it. And it's so funny because I persevered through that lowest moment of my science and math career, and I can't tell you when it happened, but one day it all clicked. It all clicked, and the reason I'm telling you that story that I was the lowest score the teacher had ever seen is because once it clicked in college, in calculus 1 I got an A, calculus 2 I got an A, calculus 3 I got an A, differential equations I got an A. And what I'm trying to say is, like, if you persevere enough, it'll eventually click and you will find such a big passion for it. And now math and science is my favorite subjects, and I use those to change the life and the life of the people around me. So uh, I feel like if there's a subject that you don't feel comfortable with, persevere and try to find the lean on the portions of that subject that you are interested in, and develop a passion through that.
Okay.
So I have a question. Can you talk a little bit about how many jobs? Is it a high growth jobs? Are there many jobs available? And do they pay well? That kind of thing. So it makes it a little more attractive, for us to kind of think about it as a career.
Yeah, I think aerospace. I think in general, it's a career that it's growing. It's a sector of the industry that is growing, especially I think now with private sector coming into the equation. If you thought about space in many years ago, you would think about obviously governments, NASA, maybe
Mm-hmm.
the European Union, and like the largest economies having access to space through government. But now, at the turn of the 2000s, the aerospace industry started privatizing, especially in the space exploration sector, where companies like SpaceX started popping up, Blue Origin started popping up, and so it started as a different element added to the aerospace and space industry that was not there before. So what that did was incentivize um, competition and incentivize innovation. And so what is happening in the last 20 years, you've seen more companies, more space companies, be private companies pop up. Some of them in California, some of them in Texas, now Seattle, where these private companies are now starting to emerge. And so there's been a lot of opportunities happening in the private sector for space. Um, so yeah, I think it's an industry that is growing. Aerospace has always been, an area of engineering that is, like you mentioned, I believe is well paid. Is well paid in terms of compensations. And so you always hear about, the mechanical engineers, aerospace, chemical engineers, industrial engineers. I think all engineers have their own different niche. But then for myself, space, it just gives it that extra edge where when you're working on something that sort of is that big, right? And maybe in terms of affecting humanity and the course of history, it's why I chose this path.
Mm-hmm.
But engineering in general, no matter which engineer, I think there's tons of opportunities, and it's more so now for minorities that we need to get more representation within these positions. Not just minorities, but women as well, like getting more involved. As I was working at SpaceX, I did start seeing that shift, that more women and minorities were being are having access to these jobs. But it's not nearly enough where it should be, but it's getting there. We just need to continue that trend.
And I'll add something real quick to that, Caesar. The reason Camilo and I work for companies that are shaping the future. The reason we need you to be part of those big companies, whether it be SpaceX, Blue Origin, Northrop, or Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, all the companies that are shaping the future need your input because it'll determine how inclusive our society has become. And so your input as a young man of color is very important and it's a very valuable input that you'll bring to these companies.
Right. Well, I guess that's everything, which was a lot, but great. Caesar, you got the one-on-one, man. I'm definitely like not just saying this because I'm like here kind of hosting it, but I'm definitely hating that you got the one-on-one, Caesar, because I think like this is totally. First of all, guys, this is a great presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I think I learned a lot about about what you all do, and I just think it's cool to be able to like look at it and see it. And just be like, dang, they've met all of these people and they did all of these cool things, and there's still so many more cool things and potentially cool things that you all can do. And like, I think it's great. I really appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for showing up. I can't wait to get my name in outer space.
No, we're happy to be here and happy to share this little story and then we can this can live on forever and we can share it to more people as they want, really, because it's we're happy to be here for sure.
Definitely, and this was great. And I'll make sure I cut the video and send it to you all so everybody gets a copy.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was very nice to meet you, Cesar, and keep us in touch. We're always you can reach us out if you have questions. We're always a call away or an email away. Just send us a message.
And Caesar,
for anybody watching this, really,
I'll make sure to get your teacher at Hardy copies of the thing so you could maybe use or the templates. Either you, Caesar, individually, or some of your friends may want to send some of the things off and do the postcard. I know that looked like something you were interested in. So man, come join me in space, Caesar.
Yeah. All right,
everybody. Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Hopefully, we will be able to host some more of these with you all and other people as well. So if you happen to know anyone in the STEM fields, please forward them to my direction or Shaheen's, and we will definitely we would like to host these series. I know Shaheen and I were talking about just hosting like STEM Talk series anyway, and we wanted to as well. So like this is a great way to like kick it off.
Yeah, maybe one day in the future, hopefully not too far in the future, we can do this even live. We can come and meet in person and some sort of auditorium or something. Yeah.
So the plan is, Camilo, that we should do this in fall. With the schools, in the schools, yeah. So while classroom, we just sort of missed that window. I mean, it was like schools closed, like I think 2 weeks ago. But no, so we can start doing it in fall, and I know there's at least 5 or 6 schools here that want to do it. And during the class itself, it's really cool. So
perfect.
All right, well, great. Well, thank you so
very much.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
Everybody,
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
See ya.